future's far away, but I'll stay, I'll stay. Just take a leap of faith, we'll find a way for you and me. Can't look back and run from what I feel inside. There's no more time to hide, because I feel again, I feel again. Oh, now I feel again. We're bringing this back to life. I feel it again, I feel it again, I feel again. We're bringing this back to life. Help me find the right words to say to get us back on our way. Can we try to fight against the grain of throwing out what we made? The future's far away, but I'll stay, I'll stay. Because I feel again, I feel again. Oh, now I feel again. We're bringing this back to life. We're picking up where we left off and on again. We never quite could forget, 'cause what we got so intense. I feel it again, I feel it again, I feel again. We're bringing this back to life.
Better off as strangers. Believe me when I say, loving me is loving danger. Your heart is bound to break. I walk alone in the night, neath the pale moon. Loving's for the fools. Baby, beware of my bite. I'm alone, I'm alone, I'm a lone wolf. 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 I'm a
All right, guys. Welcome to the Unbiased Perspectives podcast. I think we're up to, was it 13 now? Sorry, just before we start, there was no show yesterday. Someone ate some really, really bad KFC and spent most of the yesterday throwing up into a toilet.
Bad KFC? Oh,
yeah,
man.
Dude, KFC always gets me, hey. Every time I eat KFC, I'm like, I know I'm going to be fucking sick from eating this shit. Oops, we saw in the first 30 seconds.
That problem. I don't have that problem, but what I have had a couple of times is I eat a chicken piece, and the chicken that's right up against the bone is slightly pink still.
Yeah.
And I just get really annoyed when I see that. I'm like, oh god. Yeah, I either I'm going to be dead tomorrow or nothing happens.
It's the actual Hey Fez, how are you, buddy? You're slacking. Yeah, I was doing a lot yesterday and it wasn't slacking, that's for sure. How are you, Fez? I was going to say it's with KFC, it seems to be the oil in it. But
oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's the oil that makes me sick. But if I eat too much of it, I get really, really sick. But it tastes so really good that I just, it's like, something's going to make you sick, but it just tastes so damn nice. You're just like, yeah. But anyway. All right,
yeah, I don't know if it's worth it.
It's probably not, but yeah.
Interesting, the oil. Like, do you have a problem with chicken oil? Like, is it the oil that comes out of meat, or is it the oil that they fried in?
It's the oil they're frying, I think.
Well, that's interesting because they don't. Oh wait, hang on. Oh no. I was gonna say they don't fry it. No, they do. No, wait. They pressure cook the chicken and then they put the batter on and fry that. That's right.
Yeah. And it all started when I come back from Singapore. I was in Singapore like fucking 20 odd years ago. And I'm trying to adjust the thing. Anyway, I came back from Singapore about 20 odd years ago, and I really got into eating the Asian cuisine and all that sort of shit. And it appears it's the MSG in that, because like after eating that for like 6 months, I kind of got sick. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, what have you been eating a lot? And I said, I've been eating a lot of fried rice and Asian cuisine, actually. He goes, how much? And I said, pretty much every day for like 5-6 days a week. And he's like, okay. He says, like, yeah, stop that. He's like, yeah. But I don't know. Anyway.
Rightio.
Yeah. Fez, been feeling better now since I stopped. Yeah, to be honest, look, I generally try and avoid eating fast food. But Wednesday, so yesterday was Thursday, right? Wednesday. So Tuesday night was a very rarity for me. I just thought I just really craving chicken. And like even now, talking about it now, I crave the chicken. I'm like, I could really go for some KFC.
Well, there's actually something interesting. I think if you head out to, I'm pretty sure they're from Aldi. They actually have these chicken patties that you can fry or bake yourself.
Yeah.
And they have a batter on them that, honestly, it's like rip off KFC. It does. Yeah. It almost tastes as good.
I normally go to Coles and buy like chicken tenders and stuff like that, and I'll have that stuff and all that. I love chicken. I love chicken
tendies.
Yeah, but I ran out, and I thought, instead of going to the supermarket, I was like, just go and just buy some KFC and get it delivered. But anyway, all right, let's jump into the stories. Enough about me and kissing porcelain. Let's jump into the stories for the day. So the really, really big story, and we're probably going to disagree on this one, is Hunter Biden's plea deal has been tossed out. Now, yeah.
Spoke of this before we started,
Yeah. I'm like, holy shit, base judge. But let's break it down. So Joe Biden's son unexpectedly pled not guilty to tax and gun charges after the judge raised questions over the plea agreement. Hunter Biden, son of President Joe Biden, puppet Joe Biden, you should say, arrived in Delaware courtroom on Wednesday morning expecting to finalize a plea agreement with the federal prosecutors over 2 misdemeanor tax charges. Now, what they're not telling you here is that these tax charges equate to about $10 million. They're literally him evading tax for $5 million both times. I'm pretty sure if we did tax evasion for $10 million, we would just get a slap on the wrist too, right? Do you totally agree with that?
No. No.
Are you saying
it would be much more than that.
Are you saying we have a 2-tier justice system depending on if you're the president's son? I am shocked. I am really, really shocked. Anyway,
but this dovetails into my thing that Hunter Biden, just like rich, famous, powerful people skirt laws with tax evasion, they skirt laws with everything. This is COINTELPRO in some way. This whole thing.
Well,
the judge throws out everything. Yeah, right. Sure, it's a distraction.
We'll get to. Hang on. We'll break it down. So hours later, Hunter Biden unexpectedly pled not guilty to the charges after the judge overseeing the court case expressed skepticism about the specifics of the deal. The court adjourned on Wednesday afternoon without a clear path forward, and the prosecutors plan to continue to hammer out the deals of a potential deal in the coming weeks. So, what has Hunter Biden been charged with? Has been investigating Hunter Biden since 2018 over potential violations of tax and gun laws. Now, the gun law itself should be a not a misdemeanor. It should be a felony, because he literally had a gun while he wasn't supposed to. That's literally a felony. My understanding anyway. Has appointed Donald Trump, and who was appointed by Donald Trump, announced last week that his office had reached an agreement with Hunter Biden in which the president's son would plead guilty to 2 federal misdemeanor tax violations while entering a pre-trial diversion program on a separate felony gun charge. So it looks like they're still going after the felony gun charge. That's new. I heard it was going to be just felonies. So, would the deal have allowed Hunter to avoid jail? Yes, prosecutors were expected to recommend 2 years of probation for Hunter Biden's tax violation. The pre-trial division program would have ultimately resulted in the gun charge being dropped. Assuming Hunter Biden meets certain terms laid out by the prosecutors, the felony charge is otherwise punishable by up to 10 years in prison. So what questions did the judge raise on Wednesday? The U.S. District Judge, Malay Norika, I must be pronouncing that name, a Trump appointee, I love the fact they keep announcing it's a Trump appointee, expressed concerns about her role in enforcing the terms of the plea agreement struck between the prosecutor and the Hunter Biden's lawyer. It seems like you're saying just rubber stamp the agreement, Your Honor, Norok said. There seems to be a form over substance. Prosecutor and Hunter Biden's attorney also crashed over whether the agreement would protect the president's son from additional charges in the future. At one point, Weiss said that the investigation to Hunter Biden was ongoing, but he could not share any details in the inquiry. So, we also have this from SBS. Hunter Biden enters plea deal, not guilty, after deal falls apart. The New York Times is saying Hunter Biden plea deal charges are falling apart. Hunter Biden plea deal in limbo after judge questions terms. Hunter Biden plea deal unravels as he pleads not guilty. Rip it up inside the dramatic unveiling of Hunter Biden's plea deal. The dramatic scene unfolding in the federal court in Delaware on Wednesday as a plea deal struck between prosecutors and Hunter Biden's son fell apart. So, we'll go to you first. What do you think this is? Do you think this is the establishment going after Hunter and trying to force him to maybe retire for the 2024 election? Do you think this is just a judge gone rogue? Or do you think there's some other big scheme behind this whole big play behind this thing?
Yeah, I think that these things are kind of like distraction psyops type things, probably. I don't believe for a second that they would actually go after the president's son, Biden. You know, having that family name and in that family is just like it's like immunity.
But
I don't know. I have to see it to believe it. That guy spends a single day in a jail cell, and I'll eat a sock.
well, be careful because you and I said the same. Well, both of us actually said the same thing about Jeffrey Epstein being arrested, and look how that went down. You know, there was literally a podcast where you and I were both in agreement saying that there's no way in hell Jeffrey Epstein would ever be arrested for anything. This is back before he was arrested, obviously. And then about 12 months, 18 months later, 2 years later, or whatever it was, he got fucking arrested. So, like, this is what people always say to me. People always say to me, like, how do you remain white-pilled? How do you remain optimistic about all this sort of stuff? And my response to them is, 2 years ago, Jeffrey Epstein being arrested would have been a pipe dream. You know,
It's a fair point, though. I wonder if Epstein was some kind of special case, though. Just considering that Epstein, because they killed him, though. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's deader than door now. But here's the thing, right? I do wonder if they're using Hunter Biden here as leverage to get Joe Biden to retire. Because this is something we're going to be talking about more in more in detail.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I get what you're trying to get at now.
But yeah,
you're
go after the sun.
You're trying to suggest. Sorry, you don't want me to go there yet.
Well, we can sort of loosely touch on it, but it is the next story that we will be covering. But at the moment, Trump is beating Biden in the polls, and Robert Kennedy is beating both of them in the polls. Now, they sure as shit won't want a Robert Kennedy presidency because he would just be worse than Trump. Like, his daddy was literally killed by the deep state. You don't think he's going to harbour some feelings about that? So he's going to be on a warpath. Trump is going to go in there and he's talking about firing 50,000 staff members in the first couple of weeks if he gets re-elected and cleaning out the state. So they don't want any of those guys running and winning. And at the moment, the polls are showing that Biden is losing to both of them. Maybe the plan is to turn around and say to Joe Biden, retire, and we'll make this plea deal with your son happen. If you don't retire, we're going to prosecute him. And maybe they're setting up... I keep hearing the name Gavin Newsom being thrown around a lot. And I was watching someone who was saying that they would have to go through... If Biden was to pull out of the 2024 election, he would have to do it by November. October or November. Because that's sort of like getting into like the last 100 days before the election sort of thing, right? So there's a lot of people that are saying that if he is going to pull out, he's going to pull out just between now and then, sometime. But I just wonder if this is... Like, you look at how they handled Trump, right? We had 6 years of investigation into Russia collusion, which ended up being completely debunked. But what it did do was it allowed them to go through and control Trump every time he was in the White House. Every time he stepped out of line. You can map it on a graph. Every time he steps out of line and he doesn't follow the deep state. Every time he pulls troops out of a war zone and brings them home and stuff like that. What happens? The walls are closing in. And, you know, you get phrases like that. And you get them putting more accountants and more judges and more prosecutors onto the case against him. And the media's like, oh, Mueller just ramped up the investigation. The walls are closing in on Trump. But that's what it was, right? The whole Mueller investigation was a way of controlling him. You know, to quote Schumer on NBC with Maldau, the deep state has 7 ways to Sunday to screw you over. Obviously, one of those ways was the Mueller probe. You know, That's what I just wonder if this is them sort of like saying, well, look, hey, if we give, if we get some leverage on Hunter Biden, if we don't protect him, if we don't give him this plea deal, and then we go up to Biden Senior and say, hey, look, your son's in a lot of trouble here. We can rubber stamp this plea deal, okay, but you're gonna have to retire. Be a one-term president. Get your pension. Go sit on the porch with a shotgun and yell at kids every time they step on your lawn. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. All right.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this is just them sort of being distracted? Do you think there's other things in the news that they sort of are sort of like we're not paying attention to because of this, or what are your thoughts?
No, I don't think there's anything massive going on at the moment. I mean, if anything, they're trying to draw attention back to the whole thing that's going on with Ukraine, because they're constantly complaining about like they're calling it, I think, war fatigue or something, and people aren't paying attention anymore, and it's kind of annoying the establishment.
Yep. How dare we? How dare we not support endless wars?
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to see.
Well, the other big news is Sinead O'Connor has died.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say the other big stories for the day. Sinead O'Connor has died. UFOs hearing has gone through, and the whistleblowers claim that the UFOs and the US government have UFOs. Mitch McConnell abruptly stops mid-sentence during the press conference. Singapore to execute a woman, first time in almost 20 years. Man shot in Canterbury and Sydney. Apart from the stuff that we're already going to be covering today, I don't know, maybe it's a distraction to stop people looking at Robert Kennedy winning in these polls. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be like there's nothing that's major on my radar that would allow them to sort of like distract people for this. But
yeah. Gosh, I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was. So I was listening to you, and it just blew that other thing out of the water.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Right.
No, it's fine. Oh yeah, that's what it was. You know what? You partially kind of convinced me that maybe he might actually spend a day in jail. Sure. Okay, fine. Or maybe 5, or 20, or a year. I don't know. But man, I have to see it to really believe it.
So I'm sort of leaning away from him going to jail. I suppose you sort of convinced me a little bit here too. I'm sort of leaning away a little bit about him going to jail. I suspect this is more about them getting leverage on his son so that they could get Papa to stop running in the presidential.
Yeah, that got me convinced on the idea that because I'm thinking COINTELPRO or some kind of distraction or something like this, but then it could be like even more sinister. It's like, how do you get rid of him from running again? Oh, go after his family.
Yeah. Well,
it's like, what?
You look at what they're doing to Trump, right, to stop him from running.
Yeah.
Like, it's unprecedented. They're literally trying to indict him 3 times in one sitting. They haven't even got through the first indictment, and then bam, here's another one. Bam, here's another one. 3 times.
Yeah.
Like,
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, ever tell me that the deep state doesn't want someone to run? Just look at friggin' Trump and how they're handling that. It's like the equivalent of a lawyer walking up, giving you papers, and you're like, "What am I being sued for?" And then they're, "Oh, this and this." Oh, okay. And then you go to walk off, and he's, "Oh, by the way, here's another one. Oh, by the way, before you leave, here's another one." Like they're just, it's crazy. But yeah, we'll see. But like I said, I don't think it's going to end up in jail. I think if push comes to shove, Senior will retire and give him some amnesty and immunity as he's about to leave the White House. On that, do you think if Biden does finish up as president, do you think he's going to expunge him and his families with a pardon?
What do you mean?
Well,
like expunge?
Like, So at the moment, there's a big investigation happening into the Biden Jr. and Senior about money laundering and stuff like that, right? If he is finished up in the White House, just say he loses 2024 to Trump, for example, do you think he'll pardon him and his son on the way out?
Ooh, I get you.
Or do you think that's just going to be way too bad at optics? Like, it's not like they haven't gone after a president in the past. And if Trump wins the White House, do you think Trump's going to go after Biden? He might have to.
No. No, he won't, because he said he was going to lock her up, and then he's, after he got into the presidency, he's like, oh no, she's a wonderful person. So.
Well, he didn't say that. He basically said that he wouldn't go through and arrest her because he's trying to, heal the nation, blah, 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 bullshit. But
wasn't there a clip that I've heard the clip, I've seen it. He said she was like a good people or something. I don't remember the exact verbatim. It was something like that. It was like a term of endearment.
Let me see if I can find it. YouTube. Let's see if I can find it. Trump on Hillary not been locked up.
Have you ever done a sleep study?
Me? No.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, I did one last night. It's amazing. All of the probes all over you.
Is that when they stick a cap on your head and a whole bunch of electrodes?
No, they stick 8 probes into different parts of your face and head, and 2 on your chest. And then there's a nasal thingy hose that detects your breathing in and out and all that. Okay. And I swear, the sleep study equipment attached to you must make you look like you have more of an issue than you do. It's so uncomfortable.
No, I haven't done any of that shit. Alright, I can't find the video, but I do remember him saying something about why he's not going after her, and he basically turns around and says, it's along the lines of paraphrasing of, she's lost the election, we don't want to put salt in the wound.
Yeah. I remember that
guidelines,
as well, yeah.
But
and before I was just filling in dead air.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I appreciate it. All right. But yeah, as for Hunter Biden, look, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I think this is a bit of a power play from the establishment. I don't know. Maybe the judge has gone rogue. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that they'll sort of call the judge into his chambers later, the deep state, and say, what the f are you doing? But maybe it's also smoke and mirrors, because a lot of people were saying, well, hey, how do you justify locking up Trump when you're not doing anything to lock up Hunter? He was getting this sweetheart deal. So maybe they're sort of trying to make a little bit of smoke and mirrors to make it look like he has a chance to go into prison, because, it sort of sells it a little bit more, maybe. I'm not sure. Guys, let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section below, or in the chat if you're there. Alright, so let's jump on to the next thing. And this is sort of dovetailing into what we were just talking about. So the Epoch Times has reported that JFK Jr. maintains the highest favorability rating amongst the presidential candidates in a new poll. Days after a House hearing on censorship that saw Democrats attempt to prevent Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from testifying, a new Harvard-Harris poll shows that he has the highest favorability rating than any other presidential candidate, including Trump. Mr. Kennedy has a favorability rating of 47% and an unfavorable mark of 26%, according to the survey, which was released on July 23rd, just a couple of days ago, conducted from a July 19th to a July 20th among the 2,068 registered voters. Former President Donald Trump has a favorability rating of 45% compared to 49% unfavorable. And Florida Ron DeSantis has a 40% favorability rating and a 30% unfavorable. Joe Biden has a 39% favorability and a 53% unfavorable rating. So, Joe Biden has the lowest favorability rating and the highest unfavorable rating, which makes sense. Trump is beating DeSantis in favorability, but DeSantis does beat him in unfavorability. But Robert Kennedy Jr., beats both of them on favorability and unfavorability. Now, according to the survey, Mr. Trump would defeat Biden in a general election 45% to 40%. The former president would top Vice President Kamala Harris 47% to 38%, the poll also shows. The survey didn't include what happens in the head-to-head matchup between Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Trump. That's never going to happen. The establishment is never going to allow Kennedy to win. Not as a Democrat. Dismissed as a long shot Kennedy by many political pundits, Mr. Kennedy has the highest favorability of all 2024 presidential candidates in June. That was from The Economist and the YourGov. Mr. Kennedy has viewed favorability by 49% as a respondent of unfavorability by 30%, which translates to a net favorability rating of 19. Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump had a 45 to 43% respectively for the favorability. Mr. Biden's net favorability rating was -7 and Mr. Trump's was -10. What are your thoughts on a Trump-Kennedy ticket?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. A Trump Kennedy or a Trump the chick from Hawaii.
Tulsi
Those
Gabbard.
two are good.
Yeah.
Gabbard. Yeah, a Trump Gabbard ticket would. I actually feel like maybe a Trump Gabbard ticket would be better. I'm not totally. I don't know. Kennedy, sure. I'm sure he is going to be like, letting the ball into the China shop thing, even though they proved that the ball actually doesn't knock anything over.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Trump did a somewhat okay job. Like, obviously, he didn't train the swamp as much as he wanted to, right? Or he claimed he was going to. But there were still things that he did. Like, he still built some of the wall and, he brought back some of the manufacturing and inflation in the US is at 1% right up until COVID. The average household income rose by $200. There was a lot of good stuff that he did. And you also went through it, even if you talk about, like, the Abraham Accords. You talk about, like, him going into North Korea. Dude, he was the first president in history to walk across the DMZ without any bodyguards and any security, walk into North Korea and say, I want to talk to Kim Jong-un. That is like fucking balls. Like, while he was walking across that DMZ, there were snipers on both sides of that of that line looking at him and, like, lining him up. But I don't know. So, like I say, obviously he didn't do as good a job as we thought or as we hoped. But is that just because he underestimated the swamp?
Yeah. Either that or he was never really against the swamp as much as he said he was.
Well, if he wasn't against the wall, stuff like that.
Yeah, the thing I was going to say about Kennedy, though, is that he's got a lot of, like, he's said a lot of things that are kind of establishment as well. Like, he's kind of like, he would be a big shake-up, definitely. But there are certain things of what he believes that are just like, yeah.
Like what? Give me an example.
Um, well, just bring up his policy if you want to bring him up, and we can go through a few if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
Let's
so
do it. Let's do it. Right. So Robert Kennedy policies for 2024. All right. So I'm on Wikipedia, so we'll take this with a grain of salt. Campaign announcement on... Right, we don't care about the announcement date. CIA conspiracy theory. In an interview, Joe Rogan asked Kennedy belief about both his uncle and his father were assassinated. Does anybody not believe that? Economy. When launched his campaigns, Kennedy said that his priority would be to end the corrupt merger of state and corporate power that is threatening the now to impose the new kind of corporate federalism into our country. Strongly critical of the contemporary political economy of the United States, he described it as crushing socialism for the rich and it's kind of brutal. Merciless capitalism for the poor. The ball's out of the bank and keeps the nation in the state of permanent war while slashing programs like food stamps and Medicaid. Kennedy has stated that he will enact policies and favour small and medium businesses to break up the too big to fail banks and monopolies. When criticising strikes, bailouts on the homeowners, debts and small realtors, business owners instead. In an interview in the Rising program, Kennedy stated that he would be in favour of giving some kind of massive debt forgiveness for student loans in order to unleash creativity, energies, and rebuild the country. Now, I don't like the student loan thing, but that's one thing so far.
yeah, that's one example of that kind of lefty side of him.
Oh, he's he's definitely a Democrat. Yeah. But everything else he's saying there about breaking up the big banks, not breaking them up, but like encouraging small and medium businesses. I love all this stuff.
Yeah. I think the best way to describe it is he's a classic liberal. He's like a classic Democrat, old school Democrat.
So, foreign policies, Kennedy said he wants to end the proxy wars, both bombing campaigns, covert operations, coups, parliament, paramilitaries, and everything else that has become so normal most people don't know what's happening. Okay, he's won me over on that. Ukraine and Russia. Kennedy has urged that agreements between the United States and Russia or sovereign leaders emphasize that NATO would not expand eastwards and that the illegal invasion occurred because Russian security concerns were ignored by the states, which is 100% true. Healthcare coverage. In contrast to Medicare for All, system proposed by politicians like Bernie Sanders, Kennedy has stated that my highest ambition would to have a single payer program where people who want to have a private program can go ahead and do that and have a single payer program that's available for everybody. So what we've got here basically, right? No problems there. Gun rights and school shootings. Kennedy has stated, I'm not going to take anyone's guns away. I believe in gun control myself. I'm not going to take people's guns away, and I believe in gun control myself. He explained his position by saying, I am a constitutional absolutist. We can agree about whether the Second Amendment was intended to protect guns. The argument has now been settled by the Supreme Court. So he's not going to go around after anybody's guns.
But he does support gun control.
Yeah, but he's also said, but the Supreme Court has settled this argument. So it's like he's like turning around saying, well, I'm just going to...
Just think... Yeah, hopefully that's as far as he goes with that. But when I don't understand how you can have both positions.
Well, you can be in favour of gun control, but you can also be realising that your government or your Supreme Court has ruled on this and that they have said that it is constitutional and therefore you're not necessarily wrong because it's an opinion, but it's different opinion than what was written in the Constitution. Right?
Yeah, right. Okay.
Like, for example, with COVID. I didn't get the poke because I thought it was unconstitutional. A lot of the courts at the time were turning around saying it was. I disagreed with the courts. Doesn't mean my opinion was wrong. It just means that I don't necessarily agree with the courts.
Yeah.
Kennedy is active in the anti-vaxxing movement. That's a bit of a stretch, but anyway. LBGT movements. Kennedy has supported legalization of gay marriages for many years. He stated that transgender people deserve respect and he's opposed to mean-spirited legislation and he supports people's gender choices. However, he's against trans women participating in women's sports. So basically, like you said, this guy's just basically a classical liberal.
Yeah, yeah. Which is okay, but he's definitely not going to be that kind of what more conservatives would be for, right? I suppose conservatives would vote for him. If they can't vote for Trump, they'll definitely vote Trump otherwise, though. If
Yeah,
they can, they'll
yeah.
vote Trump.
Yeah, if it comes down to him or Trump, people are going to vote. The conservatives will vote Trump. But here's the thing. Do you think that the Democrats are going to vote for him if it's him versus Trump?
I don't know. I don't know that.
Like, just him even saying that he doesn't want women playing or men playing in women's sports. How many people are going to
they'll
that?
vote for that. Yeah. Most people agree on keeping female sports just female, yeah.
So I'm talking about more about the progressive lefties.
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. Progressives. Progressives, are you talking about like the progressives as in the far left?
Yeah.
No, they won't vote for RFK. No, they hate him.
So they'll vote independent, right? Which would
anything? Yeah, if the option is between RFK and Trump, they'll vote anything else or not vote at all.
Yeah, which would then basically take most of his younger voting base that vote Democrat. Because Trump's stance is the same when it comes to this sort of stuff. He's fine with transgender. He just doesn't want them running in men's sports or women's sports. So the conservatives are still going to vote Trump. Half or 1/3 of the Democrats would lose interest in voting for him. So not vote or vote for someone else. And therefore Trump still wins the election probably.
Yeah. And I had just happened to know that because I've, for example, seen people like Vosh, what their opinion is of RFK, and they reckon Vosh, like, in his audience, is, RFK's a lunatic, and that kind of thing,
When did the far left become establishment shills?
It's very confusing to me. It's so confusing. The Antifa. Right, if you look at what Antifa is and the far left, right, and they're anti-fascist, and they're always going on and on about how horrible the fascists are, and it's like, guys, have you looked at the definition of fascism? Like,
they're literally fascists themselves.
Well, no. They are rooting for fascists. They're not fascists themselves, I don't think, but. They are in the sense
putting locks in socks and beating people over the head because they disagree with you. I'd say that's fascist.
Well, that's not fascism. That's
terrorism.
Using violence. That's terrorism. That's violence. No. Public-private partnership is the definition of fascism. And if you look at what people like, so if you look at the World Economic Forum, and if you look at Klaus Schwab's books, that's what he talks about all the time, the public-private partnership thing, bringing those two things together. And it's what NGOs do. NGOs are always about...
you and I know what the definition of fascism is, but using their definition, right?
Their definition must be completely different.
It is. It's wrong. Their definition of fascism is actually authoritarianism.
Well, I don't know if it's wrong. It could just be they have a different definition, which is possible. You can be correct with your definition. I mean, that is why, for example, high-level discussions, when you see when you see, thinkers have conversations or debates, they define they swap definitions first, then have the discussion.
Yeah, but I
So,
wouldn't say that,
yeah.
I wouldn't say that their definition is right or right. I would say it's just they've been brainwashed into thinking it's right. To me, the definition of fascism is literally what was in the dictionary. Now, sure, the dictionary can change, and they've been rewriting the dictionary now. So ask me where I stand on that.
Oh yeah.
But
The other day, I found a CD from my childhood.
Oh, wow.
It's the Encyclopedia Britannica on a CD.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think it's the Encyclopedia Britannica CD-ROM. I think it was like the first or second edition ever released. I think the CD is probably like back when CD-ROMs were 5-speed or something. Yeah, I haven't put it in my computer yet because the problem I have is I go to like install it. I want to check out Windows 10, and it's like, oh shit, I don't have a CD-ROM drive. And so I'm like, how am I going to install this? Because I'm looking around at the server. Nope. The other computer over here. Nope. I'm like, I have a USB CD-ROM. I go to the drawer. And I'm like, oh god. And I'm like, now I have to run around. I've got to open boxes around and see if I can find a fucking USB CD drive. Because I have no idea how I'm going to install it. Dude,
this whole
you know what I want to do, right?
yeah,
I want to install it, and then I want to go in and like bring up a bunch of terms that we use today and see if it's like different. Unless it's Mandela effect, because that shit is fucking wacky. Like that's time where things change retroactively.
So the whole time
Man-
you've been talking, I have this kid that screamed, "That's racist," and like while you're going on about this, I'm like playing like "That's racist" in the background because like I'm just imagining that's the left right now. Is like you've found this old dictionary that has old definitions, and if they would like to listen to this conversation, they'll be just screaming about how racist this is.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, it would be like I remember going through it as a kid, and it even had little pictures in it. It was like amazing. I can't. And actually, it is. By the way, it's just mind blowing. You can fit the entire Britannica on a 650 megabyte CD-ROM. Like even back then, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I'm gonna try and resurrect it because I know you can't find this on torrents. Like you can't find this anywhere. This CD is like, it's gold. It's plastic gold. I need to get this thing. I need to rip this thing to an SSD and preserve it.
Like people like literally with this conversation, like you're gonna have like government agents literally beating down your front door, falling through your roof with like SWAT teams like pointing guns at you, saying, "Give us the contraband."
Yeah. Have you? Oh, you've watched Silo, have you?
Who's Silo?
Oh, okay. You just brought up that example. I'm like, oh yeah, like in Silo.
I've probably seen the meme. How's it spelled? S-I...
It's just literally a TV show on Apple. I've downloaded and watched it.
You mean you've watched it on Apple Play, right?
Yeah. I watched it.
Yeah.
Like streamed it. I streamed it. Not
Yeah.
downloaded.
You streamed it. Yeah. Sorry, S-I...
Yeah,
Hello?
streamed it onto my SS. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay, what happens in Silo? And I don't know if this is too much of a tangent at the moment, but like, it's a TV show where people are stuck in a silo, and there was an uprising about 40 years into being in this silo or something. Like that.
Yeah, I have seen the trailer for this.
Yeah, they have contraband. They call them artifacts.
Right.
And yeah, so anything from the old times is an artifact. You're not allowed to have magnification. You're not allowed to have any electronics. There's a whole bunch of types of electronics. Even a Pez dispenser is like, you can't have that.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm thinking this CD, it's an artifact.
Yeah.
Like judicial is going to be smashing down your door.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like I'm going to be hearing on the news. I'm going to be doing a story tomorrow. You're not going to be in Discord. I'm going to be doing a story about this guy in Australia who was arrested because he had an old CD of Britannica, and like he's facing 20 years in jail for having contraband that goes against the narrative and the message.
Because it just so happens that the definitions in it were like illegal
Racist.
because
Yep.
transphobic.
Yeah, racist,
like,
transphobic. They're going to hit you with all of the isms. It's like he was racist, he's transphobic, he's xenophobic, he's, alienphobic. It's just everything. It's going to be like, all right, satellite discontent. We're sentencing you to 500 years of jail without the possibility of parole for having contraband items. How do you play? And you're going to be like, that's racist! I don't know. Something like that.
It's gonna be crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Maybe like we'll do a share screen and we can look at it. Hopefully it works on Windows 10, or at least look, man, if I have to run a Windows 95 in a virtual machine, I'll bloody do it.
And also, do keep in mind too, you also have that downgrading backwards compatibility option for Windows 10.
Yeah, which is virtualization.
Yeah, pretty much.
It
Yeah,
uses,
pretty much. Yeah.
yeah, it uses Windows. I think it's Windows XP XP on 10 or whatever they call it.
I think
I don't use that anyway.
I think you can even go down to 7 or 8 even in that.
Yeah, but my server has Hyper-V, so I just spin up a virtual machine on my server and put it in there. So.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
As for this Kennedy thing,
Yeah.
like I said, I've always said I want a Kennedy Trump ticket. Look, Trump is not perfect in all states or any of all measures of right. There's things that I disagree with Trump. There's a video where every second word has a swear word because he fired 120 Tomahawk missiles into Syria. Funny that video was one of the videos they actually monetized. Go figure. But like I said, yeah, like there's times I disagree with Trump. You're never going to find a presidential candidate that you agree with 100%. But I'm just kind of thinking that maybe these two can balance each other out a little bit. Maybe he can bring some of the Democrats over to Trump, and we can like get rid of some of the deep state. Because I'm pretty sure Trump is going to be furious with the deep state if he gets in, because everything he's gone through. Kennedy has literally lost an uncle and a father to the deep state. So
Wait, he lost his uncle as well?
Yeah, his uncle was John Kennedy, John F. Kennedy.
Well, wait. So, which one was the one that got shot in the head?
JFK.
In the car.
Texas. John F. Kennedy. Yep, that was John F. Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy was his dad.
Oh, what happened to him?
He had a apparently someone tried to. So what I remember, someone tried to break into their house one night with a gun, and his bodyguard or his security tried to take him out a certain way. That was not the extraction path, and was found, and Robert was found dead in the house, like going this weird way that his security had supposedly taken him on. And what Robert Jr. was saying was, he says is that he always thought that the guy that tried to do it, or that tried to extract his dad from the house, used it as an opportunity to kill him. Actually, let's find the clip.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea that his dad. Okay.
Yeah. Let's actually find the clip where he talks about
crazy.
it. So Robert, he was talking about it. Kennedy. He was talking about it on Joe Rogan. Talks father's death.
You're talking about your uncle who was assassinated, and you believe the intelligence agencies were a part of that. What happens to you?
Well, I gotta be careful. I mean, I'm aware of that, and I'm not. I'm aware of that danger, and I don't live in fear of it, at all. But I'm not stupid about it, and I take precautions.
So that's not the clip I was looking for.
That's not the droids you were looking for.
It's not the clip I was looking for. So there's one where he's talking about it on Joe Rogan, where he talks about here we go. Here we go.
Okay, this is what I want to ask
So how was RFK assassinated with Robert Kennedy?
you about, because I've heard you talk about this recently, and we don't. On May 26, 1968, your father made a statement that we must defend Israel against aggression from wherever source. Our obligations to Israel, unlike our obligation towards other countries, are clear and imperative. The U.S. should, without delay, sell Israel 50 Phantom jets. Okay. A day later, Kennedy's strong plea for the defense of Israel appeared in the Pasadena Independent. The article enraged a Palestinian named Sirhan Sirhan. He wrote in his diary, Robert F. Kennedy must be assassinated before June 5th, which was the first anniversary of the 67 Six-Day War in Israel. The Pasadena Independent was in his pocket when he committed the act. He was killed because of his support for Israel, says Kathleen Kennedy Townsend.
Right, so according to what we know, Robert Kennedy made a statement talking about supporting Israel and selling them 50 Phantom jets to help them support the war in Israel against Palestine. Some Palestinian read that report in the newspaper and said that Robert Kennedy has to be assassinated. He broke into the house and tried to kill Robert Kennedy, and even had the newspaper in his pocket with that article on it, right? So a little bit convenient there, but we'll keep going.
That's not the case? That's not the truth?
Well, he was, Sirhan was involved in the murder of my father, but he did not fire the shots that killed my father.
So Sirhan was a Palestinian. He actually went through and he was involved with the killing, but he didn't fire the shots that killed his dad, right? Someone else did.
Oh, and
But
that...
didn't he want to, but according to this, is that wrong that he read this story, was enraged as a Palestinian? I mean, it's the idea that the article was in his pocket when he committed the act, is that wrong?
That could be right. And I don't speculate as to what happened. All I say is that Sirhan himself could not have killed my father. And that's what Thomas Noguchi, who was the coroner, and by the way, my entire life, I believe that my uncle was killed not by a conspiracy, by a group of people. And I had doubts about that from when I was little, because when the day that we were waking my uncle in the East Room of the White House, came in and told us that Jack Ruby had killed Lee Harvey Oswald. For the people who are young people, Lee Harvey Oswald. And a day later,
A nightclub owner.
named
Jack. A nightclub owner.
Named
Jack
who was
Ruby.
deeply involved with the mob.
Not the worst nightclub owner I ever worked for, but
Yeah.
an asshole nonetheless.
Anyway, and I had said to my dad and my mother at that time in life, and say, researched it. Somebody gave me a book called The Unspeakable. I still believe. His story is that he has no memory of it, and he's his story guilty and to the murder, killed by and my father had been killed by Sirhan. Sirhan confessed to the murder. He pled guilty. And, his story is that he has no memory of it. And he's stuck with that story for 60 years. So, but Paul, the man there was a man standing, one of my father's best friends, was standing beside him when my father was shot. And his name is Paul Chute. He was the deputy director of the United Auto Workers, and he's the guy who recruited Cesar Chavez to the labor movement, to the United Farm Workers, and then introduced my father to Cesar Chavez, which was one of the most important relationships that my father had. And the first shot that Sirhan fired hit Paul in the head. Paul survived, and he just died less than a year ago. And he spent the last 20 years of his life trying to get Sirhan out of jail because he did not believe that Sirhan killed my father. And I just sort of dismissed what, over years, I'd hear that Al Lowenstein, who was a congressman himself, he became a congressman, was killed. But he fought for many years to get Sirhan out there were 77 words. How did he make me? He told me, you have to do this. And because he was such a close friend of my father's, and I felt like I could report that Sirhan could not have killed my father, which is what Thomas Noguchi, the coroner, the most important coroner probably in American history, concluded also, and said.
So the coroner also concluded that the Palestinian didn't kill Robert Kennedy.
In his autobiography. And here's what happened, the short story. Sirhan fired 2 shots at my father. He was 5 feet away. There was, as I said, there was absolute mayhem in the kitchen.
So he was in
the ambassador.
He was in the kitchen in the ambassador's section.
Hotel. My father just won the primary.
Ambassador's hotel, sorry. So they're in the kitchen in the ambassador's hotel. Now, my understanding was the evacuation plan in case of a gunman was not to go through the kitchen, but we'll see.
He said from the stage, and now it's on to Chicago, which was where the convention was. Then he walks off the stage and he went into a route that was not expected. He was led into a route through the kitchen, which he was not supposed to go to. And
right, so after he walked off the stage, he was led into a route that was led through the kitchen, and he was not supposed to go through that kitchen.
Waiting in the kitchen in an ambush was Sirhan.
And Sirhan was waiting in the kitchen, waiting for an ambush. So how did the Palestinian know that he was supposed to ambush Kennedy in the kitchen when it wasn't even supposed to be that way? He was supposed to go another way.
Standing in front of a steam table.
Yeah.
And as my father approached the steam table, Sirhan fired at him 2 shots. One of those hit Paul Chute. The other one went past my father's ear and hit a door jamb behind my father, a wooden door jamb, from which it was later removed by the LAPD. Sirhan was then grabbed.
I have no clue.
So then Sirhan fired 2 shots. One killed the best friend of Robert Kennedy, and the other fired and missed Robert Kennedy, and hit the door jamb, which was later pulled out of the door jamb.
Grabbed by 6 men in a dog pile, and he was backed onto the steam table, and his hand, Rafer Johnson, who was a great friend of mine, one of my father's close friends, he was the decathlon gold medal winner in 1960. He was one of the people who grabbed it, and he was the one who actually grabbed his hand. And he said that Sirhan, who's a tiny little man, I've been to meet him and visit him in prison. He said the tiniest little guy. But Rafer said he had superhuman strength, and he could not get that gun out of his hand. And Sirhan now was pointing the gun away from my father and fired 6 more shots. So there's 8 shots in the barrel. He fired 6 in the other direction, the opposite direction from where my father was. All of those shots hit people. So we know who they hit. We know what happened to all of those bullets.
So the bodyguards arrest Sirhan, push him up against the steam table while they're struggling. Mind you, there's 6 of them, right? And the Sirhan's guy's tiny. He's like a little Mexican guy. While they're struggling, his gun gets pointed back behind his head, figurative, I think, and he fires 6 more times. But those 6 are in opposite direction than Robert Kennedy Sr. right? Now, those 6 bullets hit other people. They know because they've dug them out and they were able to go to hospital and get them removed and stuff. So we know where those 6 bullets went. None of them went in the direction of Robert Kennedy Sr.
One person got shot twice. Once through his once through his clothing.
I see.
And my father was shot 4 times from behind.
But Robert Kennedy was shot 4 times from behind. Now, presumably, if Saran is waiting to ambush Kennedy, he would have been waiting on the front side of him alone, right? That in itself doesn't make sense. Not to mention the fact that the Saran guy has already fired 8 times by this stage. He's fired twice at Kennedy, missed both times. He's then been tackled, fired another 6 times. Depending on the gun and how many bullets are in there, I doubt the guns at this time were walking around with 16 mags or whatever, right? So if he's already fired 8 and then Kennedy was shot 4 more times, that means this gun would have had to have at least 12 bullets in it.
And
So it's
And mind you, this is also Kennedy was shot from behind too, which is not in the direction of Saran.
same scenario as Oswald.
let me just finish.
A patsy and a real shooter.
Right. So he was a distractor. And the real shooter was behind my father, who was a man called Eugene Van Caesar, who was a...
So Eugene Van Caesar, I'm getting that name wrong, is apparently the real guy that killed Robert Kennedy. That this Saran guy was a patsy. Now, let me ask you, does this story ring familiar to any other government assassinations, possibly a little bit earlier before this time? Like, oh, I don't know, Robert Kennedy and John Kennedy? So that's what I say. Yeah, like, Lee Harvey Oswald's the patsy, obviously real shooter, blah, 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 right? It sounds like they had the same playbook and, they were just doing the same thing to this guy's father. So like I say, like he's got motivation to go after the deep state. Trump's got motivation to go after the deep state. But I don't know how the Republicans would handle a Trump and Robert Kennedy ticket, because you literally have a Republican and a Democrat, although even now, Trump is obviously a Democrat himself. He's just running under the Republican ticket. But yeah, so very interesting story that he's actually telling there about Saran. And by the way, Robert Kennedy Jr. has been trying to get Saran out of prison for 20 years. Because he knows he's innocent. He didn't kill his dad.
Oh, right. Okay.
So the son of the guy who died has been advocating for the release of the supposedly gunman of his father, because he doesn't believe he killed him. Yeah.
Wow.
So
All right.
yeah, but I don't know. So yeah, that's the story of Robert Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Sr. It's a very interesting story. But yeah. All right. Apart from that, we probably should wrap this up about this. What do you think of? What are your thoughts on Robert Kennedy Jr., Trump? Who do you think's going to be in the presidential nominee? Who do you think's going to win? What are your thoughts? How do you think it's going to play out?
There's there's a non-zero chance of not even having an election, possibly.
You think they're going to bring in some sort of like contagious pathogen and call off the election? Or war?
Yeah, either a war or civil war or some other insane levels of massive disruption, financial system collapse, possibly. Yeah, it's not a zero chance. Maybe 10%. There could be nothing at all. But yeah, like as for an actual election, jeez, I don't know, RFK or Trump, probably.
Do you reckon they're going to let him run as a Democrat though?
What, RFK? Can they stop people from running?
Well, they just do what they did to Bernie and screw the election, right?
Oh, fair enough.
Like
Well, then I
Bernie,
guess
Bernie was
he has to
supposed
run
to.
as an independent or as a Republican then.
Well,
But then he has
that's-
to go up against Trump, right?
Well, maybe pulls out of the election and then, or still runs as a Democrat, and then Trump says, "Hey, be my running mate." If he loses to Biden.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I researched Kennedy when I was at school. So when I was at school, we had a report where we had to go through and investigate an event in history. It was for a history assignment and write about what we think happened. I said to the teacher I wanted to do the moon landing was fake. And the teacher rolled around on the ground and said, "Good try. Get another subject. You're not doing that." And I was like, "Why not?" Yeah, they wouldn't let
Yeah.
me.
Why she care?
Well, they wouldn't let me cover it. He said it was too controversial, right? So this is
Oh dear God.
anyway. I turned around. I said, "Right." I said, "So you tell me I can't write about the fake moon landing?" He goes, "No." He says, "No." He said, "You can write about anything else." And I said, "Right. So just confirm. Don't write about the moon landing, but write about anything else." He said, "Yes." I said, "Right. Okay." I said, I'll have to think about it." He said, "Right." Yeah. And then about a week later, he said to me, "What's your assignment going to be on?" And I said, "The assassination of John F. Kennedy." And he just basically threw a book up in the air and walked off and said nothing. And then he's like, "You're not writing about this," and because they didn't want me to write about that either, because apparently that's more controversial than the moon landing being fake. And I said, "Why not?" I said, "You can write. You said I could write about anything." And he said, "Right." I said, "Well, this is anything. I'm writing about this." And he says, "If you write about this, I'm going to fail you in this class." And I said, "Okay, but I'm still going to write about it, and you can fail me, and then I'll take it to the headmaster and blah blah blah." And he's like, "Fine, whatever." So I wrote about it, and then he failed me, and then I took it to the headmaster, and then the headmaster independently reviewed it and gave me I think it was like a B- or something like that. But yeah, it was he just did not want me to talk about like government conspiracies. Yeah. But getting to my point, so I wrote about the JFK assassination when I was at high school. And that always interests me. I always had a bit of a soft spot for Kennedy's. I think Kennedy was a really good president. I know it's a bit controversial, but I thought he was a really good president. I liked his, he had charisma. I liked the fact that he was, at the very least, trying to get people to the moon. He always seemed to have a bit of a problem with the establishment, which always seemed to interest me a little bit. Obviously, it interests me a lot more now than it never did. But just the fact, I don't know, maybe call it sort of nostalgia, but just having another Kennedy, at least in the White House, is definitely interesting. But here's the question, right? Do you think they're going to go through, and do you think that they will execute Trump or Robert Kennedy Jr. if they start making too much waves?
No, I don't think they do. I don't think they'll do assassinations anymore.
What do you think is going to happen if Trump manages to win all these court cases and wins the election? Do you think it's... Obviously,
I'm not sure.
even if he wins even if he loses these elections, nothing, these court cases, that doesn't stop him from running. He can still run. Even if he's behind bars and in prison, he can still run. He can still win the election. And obviously they're not going to put him behind bars because, well, what would you do? Would you have his Secret Service in there with him as well? They wouldn't be able to do it. But let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. We'll probably wrap this segment up and move on to the next one if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Right. So we do have the New York crane collapse. Over in New York City yesterday, a crane that was building a high-rise caught fire and has collapsed. We do have the video. We will show that for you right now, and then we'll talk about what actually happened. So,
Okay, time for the weather.
pretty impressive for a crane crash, at least, anyway. It's also a pretty good allegory for Biden's economy. But anyway, a crane went up in flames Wednesday morning, high above Manhattan, then partially collapsed onto the street below. Basically, everything but the main cockpit collapsed. So the whole great big boom, everything. And by the way, it looks like it also collided with the bridge, with the building next door too. The fire broke out shortly before 7:30 a.m., 45 stories up in the air at the building that was under construction on the 10th Avenue between West 41 and 42nd Street in Hell's Kitchen. A high-ranking city official tells CBS News New York that the primary cause of the fire is hydraulic fluid that leaked onto a hot plate near the engine of the crane. At this point, the accident appears accidental and there's no criminal suspect. No suspected criminality. So the Department of Buildings, who is the lead agency, has its engineers working officially to determine the cause, officials say. The officials say the permits and inspections were all up to date. 12 people were hurt during the three, including 3 firefighters. All of the injured were described as non-life-threatening. The DOB said on Wednesday afternoon that following the inspection, the crane building under construction and neighborhood part that was struck and all structurally stable and not in danger of collapse. The FDYN, so the Fire Department of New York, said that the fire alarm started in the engine compartment as the workers were lifting loads of concrete onto the 36th floor. The crane operator put it out with hand extinguishers, but it became too overwhelming and had to exit the crane. So he tried to put it out, I should say. The FYDN, of Fire Department of New York, got the call around 7:25 a.m. as the firefighters responded to the partial collapse happened to building strike. So we do have a video here of this New York crane basically in flames. And then obviously them trying to put it out and trying to douse it. But obviously this thing is also 110 stories up in the air, so it's pretty high up, so it made it probably hard to get rid of too. To be honest with this, I think this was just an accident. I think what happened was they were probably lifting concrete with the crane. One of the hydraulic pumps or the hydraulic lifters probably blew. That sprayed hydraulic fluid near an engine compartment, which was hot from the engine, and that caused the fire. And then obviously he was just not able to put it out in time before the whole thing basically engulfed. Mainly because I think it was probably leaking constantly and it just kept escalating. What are your thoughts? Do you think it was just an accident? Anything you want to add on this before we jump on to
it looks like an accident. It also looks like who screwed up? Because that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, I think it's just probably... Look, it was probably just low maintenance on the crane. If you want to blame anybody for this, I would say probably check the crane's maintenance history. I think when they do the investigation, they'll find out that there's probably lacking in maintenance. But and
that's just America. That's just America right now, isn't it? Just everything is just
falling
crumbling
down. Yeah, well, that's what I say.
Yeah, roads. There's pothole issues. There's like basically, if you have a look at the state of things at the moment, there is a real massive breakdown of council. Well, they're not councils. Are they in America? Yeah, just the state governments that their funds, the funds that they have, it's just that they're out of money.
Well, if they stop spending it on stupid shit, like I think it was New York that went through and spent how many thousands of dollars painting a road rainbow colors for like trans pride. And shit.
Yeah. Because they find money for that.
Yeah.
But like the other thing too is if you look at the construction of America, like what it has been made into over the past 50 to 100 years, the whole thing to do with suburbs is not sustainable. Like a Ponzi scheme is a good way to describe like how suburbs like physically exist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's kind of ironic that we have this crane bursting in flames and then literally falling down, and it's in New York City, which is obviously one of the biggest Democrat cities, and it's sort of like, well, to me, it's kind of a representative of how the U.S. economy, and Biden keeps going on about Biden economics. It's like, well, bro, here's
Bidenomics.
Yeah, here's your Bidenomics. Literally, cranes are falling down and burning into flames, and and look, we've had this, we've had train disasters, we've got, like you say, the roads are all through the US are apparently in disrepair and disastrous.
Now, obviously I'm not conflating. There was a recent bridge collapse. I'm not conflating fires. Fires, like they do bring bridges down. That's completely normal.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. But no, there's been some major problems like with roads and stuff there. But,
yeah.
There's a channel on YouTube called I think it's bikes.
Right.
They did a video on like the whole thing to do with the suburbs. How they're like the way that they're built in America.
Right.
Is not sustainable.
Right.
So, yeah, their money sinks, and they'll never stop being a money sink.
Might be something we can watch on a Monday show, and
oh yeah, or maybe just for the audience, just to watch it themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty long video, though.
Oh, okay, gotcha. But yeah, at the end of the day, as for this, it's look, to be honest, obviously this stuff happens every now and then. I'm not saying it's definitely a Biden thing. But I'm just simply saying that at the moment it's kind of ironic that you got inflation is through the roof. You got people that are going on about how great the economy is. Don't believe your lying eyes when you got to pay $5 for a chicken or whatever it may be. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
But they keep going on about Biden economics. Yeah, we're best inflation ever. And it's sort of like, well, when we look at the actual inflation rates, which we're going to do in a sec, it's sort of like, well, actually, second what? It's actually not doing so well. The economy is actually really, really bad at the moment. But what they're doing now. But what they're doing now is that they're just confirming, or they're just going over the past 12 months. They're like, oh, look at the inflation over the past 12 months. It's going down. It's fantastic. It's like, yeah, but you're missing the great big jump like a year ago, 2 years ago. And then, even then, they're not actually talking about inflation rates. They're talking about other stuff. We'll break it down in a sec. But I kind of thought this crane was, like I say, a bit of an example of, like a bit of an allegory. But all right. Anything else we want to talk about on the crane before we jump into the last story for the day?
We're good. Let's move on. If you want.
All right.
Yeah.
Let guys know your thoughts in the comment section below. Alright, so this is an example of what we're talking about. Here, inflation over the past 12 months. Right? And this Democrat show has said even Fox News is reporting on how much inflation has fallen during the president's term. Right, so for a start, Biden's been in the White House for 2 years, over 2 years. So when you go through and talk about inflation for the past 12 months, you're missing a big portion of it. And not only that, but he's also talking about year-over-year CPI inflation. He's not talking about the inflation levels. Styx Hexenhammer actually says this in response. That's year-over-year total. So much, so that's year over year total. So each month represents the increase over the already increased same month in the prior year. This chart indicates linear inflation, not reduced inflation. Reduced inflation would be representative by negative numbers. Right, so I went through and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I went through and checked out the US inflation rate 2000 to 2023. right? And here's the chart here. So, in 2015, inflation was at 0.7%. In 2014, it was at 8.8%. 2013, it was at 1.5%. Right? And then in 2016, it goes up to 2.1, stays at 2.1 for 2017, drops to 1.9 in 2018, goes up to 2.3 in 2019, sorry. And then in 2020, it drops to 1.4. So inflation around the Trump era was hanging around the 1.9 to 2.3. Somewhere around there, right? It was around the high ones, low twos. In 2021, inflation jumps to 7%, drops to 6.5% for 2022, and 2023, well, at the moment is sitting at 3%. Well, but we haven't finished the year, so we'll see. But yeah, it's very interesting when they go through and they try and break down or they try and cite these inflation charts. They don't show this, and even here, like they're only talking about the past 12 months, when Biden has literally been in the White House for what, almost 3 years, going on to 3 years. So why are you talking about only the past 12 months? When he's literally been in the White House. And like I said, it's not even that. It's year over year inflation. It's not even the real statistics. So someone wrote in the comments, having inflation raised to 1.9, then lowering it to 3, still double from what he took office. It's not an achievement. Someone else, Representative Adam Schutz, District whatever, he wrote, this is a manipulation tactic employed by Democrats. Over the last 12 months, inflation has undeniably shown a continuous upward trend, which is in fact, while the rate of increase may have slowed, it still remains on an upward trajectory. Inflation has not decreased. Where is it? Inflation has.
I was just about to ask you. Do you believe the numbers you're seeing
For inflation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
3%. It's not more like 6 to 10%.
Well, so that's 3% for the moment. Was just for this year. Obviously, we haven't finished the year off yet. So I would not go by about that, but I would go by the like I say, we're still what, halfway through 2023. We don't know what the inflation rate for 2023 is going to be when we're still halfway through it. But like I say, look, I think it's probably higher than 3% now. But
I feel like it's more like 6 to 8, maybe even 10%. Then again, I am in a different country than America.
Yeah, and I don't think it's 6 or 8% or 10%. Maybe 5.
I feel like in Australia it's like 8 to 10%.
No, so ours is only around 6 or 7.
Yeah, but if you want the real value, just look at the increase of electricity year on year.
Oh yeah, and obviously they have gone through and they've changed how they judge inflation for the past 20 years and all that sort of stuff, right? But if we're going to
just recently, yeah.
Well, the past 10, 20 years or whatever, right? But if we're going to go comparing it to a Trump administration, then at the end of the day, we have to compare the numbers that Trump got compared to the numbers that Biden's got now, right?
Well, yeah, so Trump was 1.5%, wasn't it?
1.3 to 1.9, 1.8. It was around the high ones, yeah. Now, Trump's always said he had it around 1%. Which is probably more accurate, but like I say, my interest is that if they're sitting around saying that Biden's at 7 or 6% for the past 2 years, respectively, but Trump was at 1.9 or 2.1, then we have to sort of use that as a base, right? Because regardless of what we think, these are the same people that have measured the same time and they've come up with the different numbers, right? So to compare the two candidates, we have to sort of keep using the same numbers. Inflation normally is around 3%. Normally, 3%.
Yeah.
So, you know, for like even getting it under 3%, even getting it down to, say you got it down to 1.4, then, you know, that is fantastic. He's literally halved inflation to what it should be. Look, at the moment, I would say the inflation in Australia is probably around the 6%. I'd say inflation in America is probably around the 6%. I would say that inflation has probably dropped, yes, but I still think it's incredibly high. But that's just because it was ridiculously freaking higher a year ago. You know, I would say that inflation a year ago was actually around the 8 or 9%, where now it's probably around the 6%. Understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I say, it's always interesting that you get people who will post stuff like this, and you know, for the average person that sit there and they think, oh wow, look, inflation's going down. You know, it's like, yeah, it is, but what happened 4 years ago? What was the inflation rate 4 years ago compared to now? And this guy on Twitter that posting this stuff, he's allegedly he's getting paid. Well, his marketing team is getting paid from the DNC. So obviously there's a reason why this kid is pushing this shit. This Harry Simmons, right? He's one of these influencers that the Biden administration is probably paying for. We've heard that the Biden administration is paying a whole bunch of influencers on Instagram and stuff. I'm suspecting he's probably one of them because he keeps pushing out these pro-democratic parties. But do you really think that some kid, Harry, is sitting here watching Fox News and is like, oh my God, that could be a talking point that I could use, snaps a photo, and then goes and uploads it to Twitter? Or do you think someone sent him this graph and said, write this?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, this kid's what, 18, 19? No offense, but an 18 or 19-year-old is not sitting there watching an inflation report on fucking Fox News. Right? He's 18 or 19 or whatever he is. He's out, probably drinking, trying to get some bitches into his bed. He's not watching an inflation report from frigging Fox News. So, like I say, I think someone sent him this. My personal opinion, someone sent him this report and said, write this up, post this. He's like, okay, because that's what he's getting paid to do. And like I said, he's getting literally dragged in his comments. He's like, people are literally calling him out for this shit.
Jeez.
So he's had 2015 likes. He's had 518 retweets and 80 quote tweets. Styx Hexenhammer is one of the top responders who's had 979 likes and 74 retweets. Yeah. But anyway, guys, just be careful what people tell you on the internet, because there are people that are being brought and paid for by both Republican and the DNC.
Absolutely.
And this is obviously the best part, where we turn around and we say, no one has offered us money for our views. Our views are our own, and we will always keep it that way. And if anybody does try and buy me, I'm going to post the photo of the check on Twitter with the hashtag can't be brought, and then rip it up. But yeah, I can't be brought. Apart from that, what are your thoughts? Last story for the day. What are your thoughts about these influencers on YouTube and TikTok?
Yeah.
And
There's there's been some stories out, some articles I've seen where they play like a video from TikTok. Like so they've got like influencers, male and female.
Yep.
TikTok influencers, Twitch, various social media platforms, Facebook, etc. And basically just come out being like, I've been offered this much money, or I've been, given, this offer, to basically shill this or push that, or push this agenda or push this view. It was happening during the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not gonna stop.
No.
And if you also go into it, like, do you even know if this person exists?
Well,
Like this
yeah.
18-year-old.
Yeah.
Like,
Well.
like, is it a person or is it a bot? You don't know for sure.
No, I've seen his TikTok videos and stuff. He's a real person, and he's been on TikTok, like, speaking about this stuff. So he's just
Okay, maybe could be a real person. Okay, sure. Do you know about the dead internet theory?
yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you watch? I think it's on the channel All Time. It might be, or Maverick Files. It's one of those two. I think it might be Maverick Files. But like, there's a dead internet theory roll up of all 4 videos that he made,
Right.
and it's like an hour long, and it goes into all of the coverage for it all at once
Right.
of dead internet theory. If you want me to send it to you, you might want to
Dude,
watch it.
I don't have time to watch shit, to be honest. I'm familiar with
What shit?
I am familiar with the dead internet theory. I've already
Yeah.
looked into it extensively. The White
Yeah,
Files
so-
has also done a video on it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know about the Maverick Files thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there is that. People are getting paid to do this stuff. It's just like everything else.
There's people
yeah,
being paid to make memes under the Donald Trump administration.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, memes. People
Yeah.
being paid to do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I mean, and when it comes to the, in the real world, and you can just hire a protest.
No, yeah.
Like, nothing's real. Like, well, unless it is real, like grassroots. But then you've got astroturfing.
Yeah.
So, oh god, like, it's hard, man. And the other thing too is, like, if you try to do real grassroots things, you end up with these crews of people that infiltrate and destroy.
Yep.
And police do that with protests all the time.
Yeah, the guy that actually founded Black Lives Matter has actually been banned or banned from attending all of his events because his organization was taken over.
Unbelievable.
So, but guys, those that your thoughts are in that comment section below. Look, at the end of the day, it's look, like I said, I can't be brought and paid for. If anybody tries, I'm gonna put them on blast. Obviously, there's a big difference between sponsorships and deals for like products, but at the end of the day, if some organization comes along and says, "I want you to change your views on the First or Second Amendment," then they're getting put on blast.
I don't even have like that much of a problem of taking a sponsorship for
No.
like crappy things,
Yeah.
unless it's something egregious, like it's
Yeah.
like totally super bad.
If it's something like Ridge Wallets or something like that, then who really cares, right? Yeah.
Actually, I actually think it's great that the quartering covered Ridge wallet, because I actually bought one. I love the thing.
Yeah.
But like when they take a sponsorship, I mean, of something like, like
Warhammer or War Games or something.
Raid Shadow Legends and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. As long as it's nothing really egregious, like I think it was like Better Health or whatever it is, Better Mental Health, whatever that's pretty bad. Like, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, yeah.
And by the way,
don't do that.
interesting how Phil DeFranco never actually circled back to talking about Better Health. He was supposed to deal with it in 6 months, wasn't he? He was going to give them 6 months to sort themselves out. Then he was going to do an investigative report on Better Health, and he never did.
It never happened.
Yeah, funny that, isn't it?
Yep. Better Help, sorry. I think it's Better Help. Yeah.
Better Help, whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we've heard of all kinds of crappy things from behind the scenes with that. And I think there was a defector, someone who's actually worked for him, and it's just like, oh man, like behind the scenes, it's terrible.
Yeah, apparently
find
these-
the
These people at a certain point, from memory, don't correct me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, is basically them. They weren't qualified at some point. They weren't qualified counselors or anything. It's just
yeah.
it was just a whole bunch of shit. But
Something
anyway,
I always find interesting is that guy. Gosh, game.
vegan gains,
Sorry.
vegan gains.
No. There's a gamer, something gamer. He's a Twitch streamer. He does he interviews all these different streamers, and
Right.
one of the streamers that he interviewed actually then went on to delete themselves off of
Oh shit!
a balcony. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And this is why we don't do this on the internet, you know. But like, he's never lost his license or never had any nothing ever came of that. Nothing bad happened to him for doing this. So
I know
Yeah,
the
people-
one of the people that does a really really good investigation work is CoffeeZilla. Although I will disagree with CoffeeZilla's take on Jordan Belford. I actually know Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
I've worked with Jordan Belford.
yeah.
I've met him several
It's
times.
called Healthy Gamer.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. If you look up for the audience, if you look up Healthy Gamer, and so there's a video out there that somebody made, and it goes through all the bad stuff that he's done. It's actually really bad. Like people like that shouldn't be able to do what he's doing. I don't agree.
Well,
It's a famous streamer too. Like the guy, jumped off the balcony. Live, by the way. It was live too.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan on shutting people down for having different opinions. If there's some law that he's broken, then obviously they can prosecute him for that. But I'm not in favour of just going after witch hunts, so to speak, for someone, even if they are doing stupid shit. If they're doing stuff like that, then that's where the laws come into it, right?
Yeah, that's the problem. He's not technically doing anything illegal, Healthy Gamer, but yeah, no, some things shouldn't have to be illegal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, we're getting back to the whole the society's lost its morals ever since we removed religion. Yeah,
Rude.
I'm not
True.
I'm not religious. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. But at the end of the day, ever since we've separated church and state, what do we have? We have girls doing OnlyFans, going to clubs, shaking their bum on OnlyFans, selling their buttholes for $3.95 a month.
Yep.
We have people self-deleting. We have politicians pushing for assisted self-deletion. We have governments that have potholes and cities in disrepair. And meanwhile, the countries that seem to keep their religion and have a very strong religious core seemingly are surviving this whole Western thing very well. You look at places like Poland or whatever. They seem to be doing very well, considering like places like America or Australia even.
Yeah, I feel like it's a unique time when we're seeing things just falling apart all over the place.
Anyway, guys, let us know what your thoughts
Anyway.
are in that comment section below.
Yep, hit that comment section.
Yeah, I have to go and ring people, and I have to. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway,
Have fun.
yeah, I got a whole bunch of day of bookwork and everything in front of me. Anyway.
Crazy.
Yeah, guys, let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. Obviously, the video's been helpful. Please smack that like button if you're new to the channel. Welcome and subscribe. Obviously, guys, this will also be ripped and uploaded to Spotify for the channel. So if you do want to listen to it in the background while doing something else, then obviously you can go through and play it on Spotify as well. But guys, apart from that, thank you very much, Satellite, for jumping in today, and maybe see you tomorrow. And guys, we'll be back tomorrow as well. Yeah, tomorrow's fine. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow as well. And there's been some breaking news around Andrew Tate. I want to talk about it, but
Andrew Tate.
It's look, at the end of the day, very quickly, I don't think he's the best person in the world. I think he's probably a bit of an ass, but there's a big difference.
I know you can tell. I know you can tell. I just like I don't even want to talk about him half the time.
But at the end of the day, there's a big difference between being an ass and being illegal, and accusing him of trafficking.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
But we'll probably talk about that
They're
tomorrow.
basically just trying to pillory the guy.
Yeah, actually, well, it's funny. We just mentioned Andrew Tate, and all of a sudden, everybody just got booted offline. All right, guys.
No. Well, it's a good thing it's ending anyway.
Yeah, suck eggs.
Oh
YouTube.
my god, that is so obvious. Holy shit! You know that doesn't happen to other streamers. Like you'd never see that happen to Tim Pool.
Well, actually, they've said that actually has happened. There's been
everyone just getting booted out of the stream.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, alright. I didn't think that was a thing. But
yeah,
okay.
they said that once. They said they lost like 10,000, 20,000 viewers or something, just because like Luke Wadowski was on there speaking out about the deep state, and which he has every right to do. He's been, forebear of pushing all this stuff.
How does that even happen?
Well, YouTube accidentally hits the delete button.
I wonder. No, yeah, but it's a stream, right? So I wonder how they do it. But anyway, that's not for a live chat, whatever.
Yeah, it's actually funny because now the graph, since I mentioned that, the graph has now gone back and retrospectively fixed itself.
Oh, how interesting.
So it dropped and then went back up, and then it was like going stable again, and then all of a sudden now it's gone back and it's removed the dip from a couple minutes ago.
Nothing happened here. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. Don't believe your lying eyes. Yeah, anyway, guys, have a great night. Enjoy yourself, everybody. Thanks so much for jumping in. We'll probably see you tomorrow. Although we are going to talk about Tate, so he might be absent. Who knows?
No, I'm not going to not show up because you want to talk about him.
Yeah.
I just, it's like, oh god, it's like, why is this guy interesting? Ugh, jeez, but whatever.
Well, I think he's a general net positive for the community because of what he's like. He's getting men to go out there, and it's the Jordan Peterson thing, right? Clean your room, get yourself into line.
Yeah, I think I'd rather people follow Jordan Peterson than Tate. But then again, there are things that Tate talks about that Jordan Peterson never will. Although there's a recent clip I saw where I think Jordan Peterson's on the cusp of going full red pill on like certain topics that he's never talked about before. There's a clip I've watched, and I'm pretty sure it's real. Like it's of I think it's from behind the paywall though.
Right.
But yeah.
If you send us the clip, we'll look at it tomorrow. I have some pretty strong thoughts on Peterson. Look, I like him, but ever since he's gone to the Daily Mail or Daily Wire, he seems to have toned down a little bit, and I can't help but wonder how much of that is because of the Daily Wire.
Yeah, or because they're putting a bunch of stuff behind the paywall.
Well, it's not just that, but like even him speaking out, and I'm using that as a nice way, speaking out on Twitter and stuff, like all this sort of stuff. You don't really see him in the foreground anymore. He used to do a lot of TV news and all that. I have some pretty strong feels when it comes to the Daily Wire, and how do I say this? There are establishment deep state. Sorry, coughing there.
I don't think anyone heard anything to that because that completely wiped out your mic.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a thing that happens when you make a really loud sound.
So I think
your volume goes way down or completely cuts out.
So I think that's just on your end. I think that's a Discord thing, but I will go through and check the video.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I'll check the video. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Daily Wire is establishment, deep state, paid opposition.
Controlled opposition.
Yep.
Yeah. You think so, Daily Wire, huh?
Yep. Ben Shapiro,
all
those guys. Dude, Ben Shapiro pushed the vaccine. He's pushed for wars.
Yeah.
He pushes all of the establishment talking points.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too because if you look at their social media presence, they're definitely not shadow banned.
No.
And they spread like wildfire on Facebook.
Yep. And like even my brother knows the Daily Wire.
even my missus knows the Daily Wire.
Yeah. Well, my brother,
she-
who is like country bumpkin, like, you know, like walks around the farm, you know, yeah, you know, sort of thing, right? Even he knows Ben Shapiro. You ask him, he didn't even know, he doesn't know Tom McDonald. Oh, guys, there will be a Saturday show. We have a new Tom McDonald song coming out on Friday, and we're going to cover it. So it's going to be earlier. But,
Oh, well, yeah, it's our Friday.
yeah, so the Saturday. So there will be a Friday, your Friday, our Saturday show. But it's not going to be a long one.
the other way around.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But my brother doesn't know Tom McDonald, but knows the Daily Wire, knows Ben Shapiro, listens to them, gets recommended their videos.
My missus doesn't know who Tim Pool is, but knows who Ben Shapiro is.
Yep.
It's like, I brought up, actually, it's funny too, is I brought up Andrew Tate, because we're talking about Andrew Tate. My missus knows who Andrew Tate is.
Yeah.
This was a completely random thing. I just asked her, have you heard of Andrew Tate? She's like, oh, yeah. I don't like him much. I'm like, oh, yeah, but you've seen clips? And I was like, yeah.
But that's because they're trying to arrest him, though. She probably also knows about Trump
and there's just the conversation where, and then she mentions Ben Shapiro, and I'm like, what? What, you know that guy? I'm like, what? What, the fast talking guy with a little hat? It's like, yeah, him.
Yeah.
The Daily Wire. I was like, yeah. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yep.
Like, it's weird. She's not into politics at all of any kind.
Dude,
but knows who these people are.
Normies get recommended Daily Wire. That just sort of backs up my whole it's establishment shit. But we do need to go. I do need to go and make calls. But guys,
everyone.
See everybody tomorrow, and remember there will be a Friday Saturday show because Tom McDonald's got a new song and we're going to break it down.
All good.
Apparently it's really controversial. Who would have thought? Have a good night.